The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Well, welcome back to True News. An uncle of President Barack Obama was arrested last week in Massachusetts for allegedly driving a vehicle under the influence of alcohol. A police officer said that Obama was arrested on August 24 after failing a sobriety test. A White House official confirmed that the arrested man is the half-brother of Barack Obama's father. According to a federal law enforcement source who spoke to CNN, Mr. Obama, and we're talking about the uncle, was not legally in the United States and has been previously ordered removed from the USA. His case is now going through the immigration process. Okay, now this is where it gets interesting, because it sounds like uncle is just like his nephew. He's in the country illegally. But the Boston Herald reported President Obama's accused drunk driving uncle, who was busted after a near collision with a police officer, has a Social Security number, despite being an illegal immigrant ordered to be deported back to Kenya. The president's 67-year-old uncle has held a valid Massachusetts driver's license and Social Security number since at least 1992, according to a spokesperson for the Massachusetts Registry of Motor Vehicles. Obama's uncle, whose sister also made headlines when it was revealed she was an illegal immigrant living in public housing in South Boston, had slurred speech, red and glassy eyes, and wobbly legs, according to the police officer. Well, I had to call our friend Susan Daniels, a licensed Ohio private investigator, and I asked Susan this morning whether Mr. Obama's uncle indeed has a Social Security number. And Susan is on the telephone to tell us what she has discovered. Susan, here we go again.
Yep, here we go again.
We're talking about an Obama and a Social Security number. Now, what did you find out? Well, first of all, what is the name of the uncle?
Well, he's reversed it. He goes by Obama Oyango. He doesn't go with it the way it is supposed to be.
So his name is Oyango Obama?
No, Obama Oyango.
I know, but in Kenya, is
yes.
he Oyango Obama?
Right.
But here in the USA, he's Oyango Obama. I mean, Obama Oyango.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So a little play there on the name, so he can, for some reason, get away with this. That's another issue. So, does Obama Oyango have a Social Security number?
Yes, he does, and it was issued in Massachusetts between 1964 and 66, and it starts with 02. Let's see, it's either 025 or 027, and I have it here. Let's see, it is 025.
025.
Right.
Okay, so you immediately found a Social Security number for Obama Oyango.
I found it interesting that people in the past claimed they couldn't find him, and what I did is I ran his name in the entire state of Massachusetts at the behest of my continuing client. And when nothing came up with Obama, the last name, I thought, well, let me just try it in reverse, and up it popped. Now, it doesn't give a date of birth, but
they said he's 67, so that means 1944.
Right. This does not give a date of birth for him, but he was the only one in the state of Massachusetts that came up with this name. And it's in, there's an address in Cambridge. which, ironically, isn't that where the policeman had the run-in with the professor from Harvard?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
I believe, I'm certain it is.
Yeah. So he has, this one was issued in 64 to 66.
Okay, wait a minute. All right, now let me get this straight. Obama Oyango, Obama's uncle, who, by the way, in Obama's book, he refers to as Uncle Omar.
Right.
I mean, Obama doesn't even know his uncle's name. Omar sounds very Islamic to me.
Well,
but he called him Uncle Omar.
Yeah.
But here in the USA, Uncle Omar is Obama Oyango. Okay, yep. I'm trying to keep this straight. This Obama family. I mean, my family, we all just had regular American names, and we kept our names throughout our entire lifetime. I don't,
right.
This thing of switching names and identities and all that. That's I don't know. I just don't know people who do that kind of stuff.
It's really alien to me.
Very alien. Okay, so he has a Social Security number.
Right.
All right. Obama Oyango, Uncle Omar, was born, we think, 1944. You're telling me that the Social Security number was issued sometime between 1965 and 67?
64 and 66.
64 and 66.
In Massachusetts.
Okay, then he had to be roughly 20, 21 years old when he was here.
Well, it would seem that way, although in the articles I read, it said he'd been here in 20 years as an illegal alien. But in Obama's book, Dreams from My Father, it said that his step-grandmother had told her that Uncle Omar had left there 25 years ago or so, and nobody knew where he was.
Okay, but 25 years ago is not 1964.
No.
Was he here before this? Maybe before 25 years ago? Has he been here twice?
He maybe have been here continuously.
Okay, well, if he has a Social Security number, then why is he considered by law enforcement to be an illegal immigrant, and why were they planning to deport his butt back to Kenya?
I don't think they would. I don't think you can deport citizens.
No, but they admit that there was an order to deport him.
Right.
Well, you don't deport citizens.
He's got a valid Social Security number.
Well, so does his nephew in the White House, and you and I both know it belongs to a man who was born in 1890.
Okay, well, I got another piece here that's going to be even more shocking to you. Aunt Satuni.
Oh, Annie, okay.
Annie.
Yeah.
She got her Social Security number in 2001, and it was issued in Indiana.
But she's an illegal, too.
Yeah, and she's never been anywhere but Massachusetts.
And she got hers in Indiana.
In 2001.
Well, how do illegal immigrants get Social Security numbers?
Illegally.
So are you saying it is possible for a Kenyan to come to America illegally and get a Social Security number?
Well, we know of for sure 2 of them, and possibly a 3rd. So
it is possible that you can fraudulently obtain a Social Security number if you come from Kenya and move to the United States illegally.
Well, the thing that's really interesting is I was just looking at the Social Security site, and it said if you're over the age of 12, when you get it, you have to be interviewed, and you have to produce either a birth certificate, a marriage license, or a divorce decree from this country as one of the documents to get a Social Security number.
Well, I guess he managed to get a fake birth certificate or a fake marriage certificate.
Or somebody just gave him a number.
Or somebody just gave him a number. I have a feeling that somewhere inside the Social Security number, it's a Social Security Administration, I think that there's a deeply hidden communist cell.
Oh, I don't even think it's deeply hidden.
Well, it's deeply hidden. It's deeply hidden from the FBI. I mean, they can't find it.
Oh, of course they can find it if they wanted to. if they were so inclined, there would have to be, for each one of these numbers, for Aunt Zatouni, for Uncle Omar, and for Barack Obama, an SS5 that was handwritten and went with the numbers that they have. And I don't believe that there'll be any of those at the SSA. I think somebody will have...
Do you know how insane this conversation is?
Pardon me?
Do you know how insane this conversation is?
I mean, if you would have told me 2 years ago I would be having this conversation with you, I would not have believed it.
We have a president with an Aunt Zatouni and an Uncle Omar.
Yeah.
Neither one of them is a legitimate resident of the United States. Both of them ought to be in jail for their fraudulent criminal behavior. And this insanity just goes on, and nobody talks about it.
Well, and the thing that's interesting is I think that Aunt Zatouni said that she had only been here 5 or 6 years, and yet this number was issued in 2001, which is 10 years ago. And she had been on welfare in Massachusetts.
Okay, now Uncle Omar, which is Obama, what was his name?
Onyango.
Onyango.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to have to put
You're going to have to get a board.
A board on the studio walls,
right,
and move the names around and try to, keep track of all these people. Now he had a Massachusetts driver's license, but that that part I could figure out. I mean, we're talking Massachusetts. They would give a driver's license to a space alien.
They wish they were on the Mexican border.
Oh yeah, they would set if they were if Massachusetts
would have a welcome sign.
Yeah.
At the border.
Thank God Massachusetts isn't on the border with Mexico.
Right. Or Canada, for that fact.
All right, so that's not that hard to figure out. Probably a cat or a parrot could get a driver's license in Massachusetts.
Oh, yeah.
But it's the Social Security number. Now we're talking federal felonies.
Yes. And I can't understand why not one of the congressmen I have tried to contact with this information has responded to me. Not a single one. Because
they're a bunch of wussies?
Yeah, but it's even all the Tea Party, candidates. It's all the Tea Party people are supporting all these people, and they too have not responded.
Well, that's because the Tea Party has been taken over by the Republican Party, and that's where the money's coming from, and the leadership. They've moved their own people into the Tea Party, and the Tea Party is now just to focus on economic issues and not anything else. It's become a libertarian movement. So, they're just going to continue to ignore the facts about this criminal in the White House. This has got to be incredibly embarrassing for officialdom in Washington and the media.
No, they're incapable of being embarrassed.
Well,
they're politicians.
I mean, it's like they had to wince. Like, here we go again. Here's another
case of his family.
Yeah, we got
growing up.
Yeah, the Obama family is a constant embarrassment to this guy. None of them are legitimate residents of the United States. They're all a bunch of hoodlums that have come over to this country. But how did they? I mean, who was their example? It was Barack.
I don't know.
It was Barack Obama. He got in, and he got into the White House. So why shouldn't Aunt Zatouni come over here and Uncle Omar?
Yeah. Well, maybe Uncle Omar paved the trail.
Well, they should have, while he was juiced up, they should have asked him about his nephew. Yeah, they should have. Maybe they did. Okay, well, Susan, once again, I hope the FBI is just, absolutely embarrassed. I hope the intelligence agencies are embarrassed. This is just shameful, despicable incompetence and malfeasance in office.
Absolutely.
You name it, these guys in Washington are guilty of it. They don't mind.
Know it. They all know what's going on, and they either are afraid to do something or too cowardly and afraid of the same thing.
Yes, or they're part of it.
Lose their jobs.
Or they're part of it.
Or and not wanting to lose their jobs will make them part of it.
Or they are part of a criminal operation. Okay, well, listen. I got a phone call this morning from a longtime friend and supporter of True News, and he said, "Rick, what do you know about Uncle Omar?" And I said, "What I've read in the paper." And he said, "Well, I thought you would know something about the Social Security number." And I said, "Well, I'm going to find out in a couple of minutes. I'll call Susan Daniels." And he laughed, and I said, I'll call you back and tell you what we know. So I just automatically assumed, Susan, that you had already run the number, and you already had the goods on Uncle Omar.
Yep.
So now we have to figure out where he got the number, because what they're admitting to us now, if this number was issued in 1964, 65, 66, then Uncle Omar was here in the USA when he was in his early 20s.
Right. And it says I ran something through a database. It said it's a valid number, and that nothing is on record with that number with the Social Security Death Index. And same with Ansatuni's numbers. They're both valid numbers, except hers is from Indiana, and I'm pretty sure she's never been there.
Have you had time to run the addresses to see if
no.
That might be interesting. The addresses that show up for Uncle Omar and Aunt Zatuni. Aunt Zatuni, that sounds like a pasta dish. I don't know. I mean, I shouldn't say this.
Why not?
But run the addresses, see what shows up. Maybe some of the other addresses that have popped up with Obama's fake Social Security numbers will show up in these addresses where Omar and Zatuni have lived. And but where we ought to be really focusing right now is asking law enforcement,
why aren't they doing their job?
No, why were you going to deport Uncle Omar if the dear Kenyan man had a Social Security number?
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Citizens cannot be deported. It can't be done.
Right. So which one is it? He was an illegal immigrant or he is a citizen? Pick one.
Yep.
And if they were right to deport him, that he was here illegally, then please tell me where he got a Social Security number in the early 60s.
Yeah, let's just see the SS5 from the Social Security Administration. That'll clear it all up.
Well, he'll probably put his birth certificate on the internet, and it'll have multiple layers.
I think you may have be onto something. I see a pattern here.
I do too. All right, Susan Daniels, thank you for coming by. Well, we'll stay on top of this, Susan.
Thank you.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.